Why is it that so many people quit too early? They plant a seed today and expect fruit tomorrow. They go to the gym for 1 week and wonder why they still look the same. They write one chapter and think they should already be an author. When they don't see quick results, they believe their effort was wasted. But let me tell you something Napoleon Hill, learned long ago. Real growth often happens in silence, beneath the surface, before the world notices. And that, my friend, is where greatness begins. The story of the tree. Let me share with you a story. A farmer once planted a seed in the soil. Days passed, then weeks, and then months. Every day he came to water the soil, yet nothing appeared above the ground. His neighbors laughed at him. "Why do you waste your time?" they said. "Look at that dirt. Nothing is growing." But the farmer kept watering. He believed something was happening, even if he couldn't see it. What the neighbors didn't know was that beneath the soil, the seed was alive. Roots were spreading, deep and wide, creating a strong foundation. Months later, when the first green shoot finally broke through the ground, it seemed sudden to everyone watching. But the truth? It had been growing all along, just where no one could see. This, my friend, is how greatness works. Invisible growth. You may not see results today. You may not see them next week, or even next month. That does not mean your effort is wasted. Every small action you take is building an invisible foundation. Each hour of practice, each page you write, each step you run, it's all part of a process that others cannot see. But in time, when your results finally rise into the open, they will seem unstoppable. Most people quit in the silent phase. They give up because they confuse silence with failure. They think, if I can't see it, it must not be working. But the truth is, the silence is where success is built. The craftsman's secret. Think of the master craftsman. He spends years refining his skill. To an outsider, his work looks the same today as it did months ago. He strikes the same piece of wood. He repeats the same strokes. He studies the same designs. But something invisible is happening. His hands are learning. His eyes are training. His mind is shaping patterns that will later create masterpieces. The outsider cannot see the growth, but the craftsman knows. Every silent repetition is shaping greatness. The difference between quitting and winning. So what separates those who succeed from those who remain ordinary? It is not talent. Many talented people give up too early. It is not luck. Luck is nothing without preparation. It is not opportunity. Opportunities are useless if you quit before they arrive. The real difference is consistency in the silence. Winners keep moving forward when progress seems invisible. Losers quit when progress isn't instant. That is the entire difference. The contract with time. When you commit to steady effort, you sign a contract with time itself. You agree to keep going without proof. You agree to trust that your actions are adding up even when the scoreboard shows 0. This is not blind hope. It is wisdom. Because every meaningful achievement in history was first built in silence. The athlete's victory was prepared in lonely gyms. The leader's wisdom was forged in years of study. The writer's masterpiece was shaped in countless unseen drafts. The world only notices the results. It never notices the years of silence that made them possible. Persistence or burst? Most people chase their dreams with quick bursts of excitement. They start strong, full of energy, then fade when the excitement disappears. But true success does not belong to bursts. It belongs to the steady rhythm of persistence. The person who keeps going when no one claps. The person who keeps building when no one notices. The person who shows up day after day, without recognition, without applause. That person is building something unshakable. The lesson of the boulder. Imagine a man striking a boulder with a hammer. The first strike shows nothing. The 10th strike shows nothing. The 100th strike, still nothing. Onlookers laugh. Fool! That rock will never break. But inside the stone, invisible cracks are forming. With each strike, the structure weakens. Then one day, perhaps on the 101st strike, the boulder splits wide open. People cheer, amazed by the sudden success. But was it really sudden? No. The cracks were there all along, invisible, waiting for the right moment. Your efforts are the same. Every strike, every step, every action matters, even when you see no result. Becoming unstoppable. When you learn to love the process more than the prize, you become unstoppable. Because you no longer depend on immediate results. You no longer depend on applause. You no longer depend on recognition. Your strength comes from within, from the knowledge that you are building something great even if the world cannot see it yet. This is the invisible foundation of greatness. Closing of part 1. So I ask you today, will you keep watering your seed, even when nothing grows? Will you keep striking the boulder, even when it does not crack? Will you stay constant in the silence, trusting that your time will come? Remember this, the results of tomorrow are built in the silence of today. Stay steady, stay patient, stay determined, because the world may not see your progress yet, but soon, it will have no choice. White heavy check mark. End of part 1, approximate 1,000 words. Would you like me to continue with part 2, the power of relentless persistence, in the same story style now, so you have the full flow ready? The power of relentless persistence, part 2 of 6, inspired by Napoleon Hill. Hook. Why do so many people quit just before success arrives? They give up when the finish line is only steps away. They walk away from the field right before the harvest. History is filled with men and women who were talented, intelligent, and capable, yet they abandoned their dreams in the very moment when persistence would have brought victory. The world does not belong to those who start strong. It belongs to those who persist when persistence feels pointless. The story of bamboo. Let me tell you about bamboo. If you plant a bamboo seed, you will wait. A year passes, then 2, then 3, then 4. During that time, you water it daily. You protect the soil. You care for it as best you can. But what do you see above ground? Almost nothing. Perhaps a small, fragile sprout, but no real growth. To most people, it looks like wasted effort. They laugh at you. They say, "Why keep watering dirt? Nothing's happening." But you know the truth. Because in the 5th year, something remarkable happens. In a matter of weeks, that bamboo can shoot up to 90 feet tall. Now ask yourself, did the bamboo really grow in just those 6 weeks? No. The bamboo was growing all along, but in a place you couldn't see. It was developing a root system, spreading wide and deep, preparing to handle explosive growth. The first 4 years were not wasted years. They were years of silent preparation, and this, my friend, is exactly how persistence works. Why persistence matters. Every day that you continue, even when progress looks invisible, you are strengthening your roots. You are building character, sharpening skills, and shaping the mindset necessary to handle success when it finally arrives. Persistence gives you something even more important than skill. It gives you resilience. Each day you continue without visible reward, you prove to yourself that you can endure. You show yourself that your commitment is not dependent on applause, not dependent on quick results, not dependent on easy victories. You are forging mental toughness, the kind of strength required to weather storms, face setbacks, and outlast obstacles. The world is full of people who had ability but lacked persistence. They quit too soon. They walked away right before their breakthrough. They surrendered when victory was just around the corner. What separated them from those who finally succeeded was not intelligence, not opportunity, not talent. It was simply persistence when persistence seemed pointless. The secret few understand: when you develop true persistence, you step into a small circle of people who understand a secret most of the world misses. Sustained effort, applied consistently over time, is the most powerful force in shaping reality. Think about it. Genius without persistence produces nothing. Talent without persistence remains unrealized potential. Resources without persistence sit unused. But persistence, even with modest ability and limited resources, can achieve what looks impossible. Building faith in the process. Persistence requires faith. Not blind faith, but educated trust. It is the confidence that consistent effort, intelligently applied, will produce results, even if those results are not yet visible. This faith becomes your anchor during seasons when doubt whispers in your ear, when days feel wasted, when progress seems non-existent. Most people lose faith because they misunderstand progress. They think it should be linear, constant, and immediate. But growth rarely works that way. It comes in cycles, in waves. Sometimes it feels like you're moving backward before you leap forward. The lesson of the muscle. Consider how a muscle grows. When you train at the gym, you actually damage your muscles. You create tiny tears in the fibers. To the untrained eye, this looks harmful. You are literally breaking down the very tissue you want to strengthen. But your body has a remarkable response. It repairs the muscle fibers stronger than before, adapting to the stress you placed upon them. Here's the catch. This doesn't happen overnight. The damage happens during training, but the rebuilding occurs slowly, during rest, over days and weeks. If you judged your progress immediately after the workout, you might think the training made you weaker. But if you persist, day after day, week after week, the transformation becomes undeniable. Your life works the same way. The struggles you face, the challenges you endure, the setbacks that make you question yourself, these are not signs of failure. They are the breaking down of old patterns, the tearing away of weaknesses, the preparation for something stronger to emerge. Setbacks are the path. Every craftsman makes mistakes. Every entrepreneur faces failure. Every champion endures defeat. These are not deviations from success. They are part of success. They are the very experiences that create strength, wisdom, and mastery. When you develop faith in the process, you stop measuring yourself by short-term results. You begin to see each day's work as an investment in a future that hasn't arrived yet but certainly will. The river's example, faith and persistence, also means releasing your obsession with deadlines. Yes, have goals. Yes, set targets. But do not demand that success appear on your timeline. Think of a river flowing toward the ocean. The river doesn't stop simply because it hasn't reached the sea by a certain date. It doesn't quit when it meets rocks or cliffs. It bends, it carves, it flows around obstacles, but it always moves forward. Your journey must be the same. Flexible in method, patient in timing, but relentless in direction. The discipline of daily progress. Now let us talk about discipline. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is freedom. It frees you from the frustration of random effort. It frees you from the anxiety of wondering if you're making progress. It frees you from the cycle of starting and quitting. With daily discipline, progress becomes predictable. Small actions compound into massive results over time. Think of a musician learning a difficult piece. Without discipline, they practice in bursts, intensively one week, then not at all the next. Progress fades, frustration rises, and mastery never comes. But with discipline, the musician practices every single day. Each session builds upon the last. Gradually, what once felt impossible becomes easy. This is the power of compound improvement. Like interest in a bank account, each day's effort multiplies over time. At first, growth feels slow, almost invisible. But then, suddenly, the acceleration comes. Most people quit before reaching that tipping point. They give up when the compound effect is just beginning. But the disciplined person, the one who persists daily, will always see the reward. Closing of Part 2. Persistence, faith, discipline. These three are the invisible giants behind every success story. They turn ordinary people into masters, into leaders, into champions. The question is not whether you have talent. The question is whether you will keep striking the rock, watering the seed, and walking the path long enough to see the harvest. Because once you do, my friend, the world will call you lucky. When all you really were was persistent. White heavy check mark. End of Part 2. Approximate 1,000 words. Would you like me to continue and prepare Part 3, building unshakable faith in the process in the same Napoleon Hill story style? Part 3. The power of daily discipline, delayed gratification, and small choices. This builds self-trust, which is the foundation of all personal power. Each day that you follow through on your commitments, no matter how small, you strengthen your belief in your own reliability. You increase your confidence in your ability to achieve what you set out to accomplish. Nothing creates inner strength like the consistent proof that you can depend on yourself. The absence of daily discipline produces the opposite effect. Every time you break a promise to yourself, every time you exchange long-term advancement for momentary comfort, you weaken the foundation of your character. You begin to doubt your reliability, to question whether you truly have the power to follow through. This erosion of self-trust is more destructive than any external failure. For no man can succeed in the world until he first succeeds in commanding himself. Discipline, however, is not a gift granted to the fortunate few. It is a skill that must be developed gradually, just as physical strength is built through progressive training. Most people fail because they attempt dramatic change overnight. They set lofty, unsustainable standards, fail to meet them, and then use that failure as evidence that they lack discipline altogether. But the truth is that discipline must be cultivated from the ground up. Begin with actions so small that they seem almost trivial. If your ambition is to write a book, do not begin with a vow to write 10 pages each day. Begin by writing one sentence. If your desire is physical fitness, do not attempt a grueling routine from the start. Commit to one push-up. If your aim is to master a skill, begin with 5 minutes of practice. These small beginnings are not insignificant. They are strategic. They allow you to build the habit of daily discipline without overwhelming your willpower. And once you have established the rhythm of daily action, your natural desire for progress will expand those efforts. The writer of one sentence will soon write a paragraph. The man who begins with a single push-up will easily progress to 20. What matters is not the size of the effort, but the consistency of the effort. The crucial law of discipline is this: honor your daily commitment regardless of circumstance. Whether you feel motivated or not, whether you are tired or energized, whether life is smooth or turbulent, you take the action you have promised yourself. This is how great transformations occur, not through occasional bursts of effort, but through daily deposits into the bank of achievement. Discipline frees you from uncertainty. During moments of doubt or discouragement, you do not have to wrestle with indecision. You simply continue your daily practice. The discipline itself carries you through the storm until clarity and inspiration return. Mastering the art of delayed gratification in a world that promises instant everything, the ability to delay gratification is nothing less than a superpower. It separates those who achieve lasting success from those who squander their potential in pursuit of momentary comfort. Delayed gratification is not about denying pleasure. It is about choosing higher pleasures, the kind that require patience, discipline, and endurance to obtain. It is the wisdom to trade immediate indulgence for long-term reward, to sacrifice comfort today for abundance tomorrow. Imagine two paths through a forest. One is smooth and easy, requiring little effort, but it leads to an ordinary clearing. The other is steep and difficult, demanding sweat and perseverance, but it culminates in a breathtaking vista. Most people, driven by comfort, choose the first path. The wise, who understand the law of delayed gratification, endure the second path, and are rewarded with a view beyond imagination. Life confronts you with such choices every day. You may sleep late or rise early to pursue your vision. You may choose entertainment or choose study. You may spend your earnings on fleeting pleasures or invest them in your future. Each choice seems small in isolation, but collectively, they determine your destiny. The ability to delay gratification is not innate, it must be trained. Begin with small exercises. Delay checking your messages for 5 minutes after they arrive. Pause 10 minutes before indulging a craving. Wait 1 day before making a non-essential purchase. These minor acts of restraint build your power to govern impulses. Over time, you extend the delay, strengthening your mastery over desire, until you are no longer enslaved by impulses but guided by vision. Vision itself is crucial. Without a compelling picture of the future, delayed gratification feels like pointless denial. But when you hold before your mind a vivid vision of the rewards that await, sacrifice becomes not only bearable but meaningful. The runner endures painful training because he envisions the triumph of the finish line. The entrepreneur sacrifices leisure because she envisions the freedom her enterprise will create. Vision transforms sacrifice into investment. It is also vital to understand the true cost of immediate gratification. Every time you choose a fleeting comfort over long-term progress, you are not merely standing still, you are moving backward. You are sacrificing future strength for present weakness. When you realize that instant gratification robs you not only of what you might gain but also of what you already have, you begin to see it for what it truly is, an expensive thief disguised as pleasure. The compound power of small actions are the most underestimated force in the universe. Because they appear inconsequential, most people dismiss them, overlooking the enormous cumulative power they contain. Yet it is precisely their insignificance that makes them so powerful, for while the masses ignore them, the few who understand their impact can wield them to shape extraordinary destinies. Every day, you make dozens of seemingly minor choices. Do you rise at the first alarm or press snooze? Do you nourish your body or poison it with convenience? Do you read a page of wisdom or scroll aimlessly through distractions? Do you invest in your craft or waste the evening in idleness? Each choice seems trivial when viewed alone, but together, they carve the trajectory of your life. Consider this: read 10 pages of a valuable book each day, and in a year you will have consumed over 3,500 pages, the equivalent of dozens of books. Spend that same time in idle entertainment, and you will have nothing to show but fleeting amusement. The difference may be invisible today, but over months and years, it becomes monumental. This is the compound effect at work. Just as money invested steadily grows into vast wealth, daily disciplines compound into greatness. The results may be invisible at first, but with time, they accelerate beyond imagination. This is why most people fail. They give up during the invisible phase, mistaking lack of visible results for lack of progress. They abandon their actions precisely when those actions are beginning to compound into unstoppable momentum. To harness the compound effect, you must learn to find satisfaction in the process itself. Do not measure the value of today's effort by today's results. Measure it by the certainty that tomorrow's results are being built in silence. Track your daily actions, not for immediate validation, but as proof that you are steadily building a foundation. In this way, you transform your relationship with effort. You cease chasing quick rewards and begin investing in inevitable triumph. You become the bamboo tree, seemingly dormant for years, building roots beneath the surface, then exploding upward in unstoppable growth when the foundation is ready. Conclusion: discipline, delayed gratification, and the power of small daily choices. These are the pillars of lasting achievement. They may not dazzle with immediate results, but they build the kind of success that endures. The man who masters them builds unshakable self-trust, gains power over his impulses, and unlocks the compounding force of consistent action. Most people fail because they seek shortcuts. They desire harvest without planting, reward without sacrifice, results without discipline. But those who understand these principles, who practice them daily with persistence and faith, eventually reach heights that the undisciplined cannot imagine. Remember this truth: genius without persistence achieves nothing. Talent without discipline remains potential. Resources without patience lie wasted. But persistence, combined with daily discipline and the wisdom to delay gratification, can accomplish what once seemed impossible. This is not theory, it is law. And when you align your life with these laws, your success is no longer a question of if, but only of when. Would you like me to also blend this with more of Napoleon Hill's original terminology, like definiteness of purpose, mastermind, organized planning, so it reads closer to his direct style in Think and Grow Rich? Part 4. The Power of Persistence and the Hidden Door. Samuel woke up before the sun again. By now, the routine felt natural. He sat by the window, notebook in hand, writing his goals before the world even stirred. But on this particular morning, he felt heavy. The results he had hoped for still hadn't come. His efforts seemed small compared to the mountain of challenges ahead. The doubt returned, whispering in his ear. What if all this effort is useless? What if success isn't meant for you? He closed his eyes, remembering something his old mentor, Mr. Alden, once said. Most people quit when they are 3 feet away from gold. Persistence is the pickaxe that breaks through the final wall. Those words stirred something inside him. He realized his struggle wasn't a sign to stop. It was a test to prove if he was worthy of what he sought. The first trial of persistence. Later that week, Samuel visited the small workshop he had been building in the back of his family's land. The tools were simple. The space was unfinished. But to him, it represented more than wood and nails. It was the foundation of his dream business. Neighbors mocked him. Some laughed openly. Why waste your mornings here? One man jeered. It looks like a shed for broken carts, not a place for success. Samuel swallowed his pride and kept hammering. He remembered Hill's principle. Persistence often begins when the world calls you foolish. Day after day, he added small improvements. A shelf here, a table there. Each nail was an act of defiance against doubt, and slowly, the workshop stopped looking like a shed. It began to resemble a place where real work could happen. The hidden door. One cold evening, after a long day of rejection from merchants who refused to buy his small wooden carvings, Samuel almost gave up. His feet were sore, his pocket nearly empty. He sat by the fire, head in his hands. Maybe they're right, he muttered. Maybe this isn't meant for me. Just then, his younger sister, Mary, placed one of his carvings, a small wooden bird, on the table. You see only failure, she said softly. But I see beauty. This little bird gave me hope when I was sick last winter. Don't you know? People need your work, they just don't see it yet. Her words cut through his despair. He realized something profound. Success hides behind a door that only persistence can unlock. Every failure, every rejection, was not a dead end. It was the knocking sound on that hidden door, the compounding of effort. Weeks passed. Samuel kept carving. Each piece was better than the last. He studied, adjusted, and learned from every mistake. Instead of crying over unsold work, he treated each failure like a teacher. One morning, he tried a new idea. Instead of selling his carvings to merchants, he offered them directly to families in the marketplace. To his surprise, mothers smiled and children's eyes lit up at his toys. His first sales came not in coins from rich men, but in gratitude from ordinary families. It wasn't much, but it was a spark. Samuel learned another truth. Persistence compounds. Small wins build upon each other until momentum becomes unstoppable. Resistance from within, but with progress came a new kind of test. His own mind began to rebel. Why work so hard for such little gain? The inner voice sneered. Take the easy path. Rest. No one would blame you. Samuel almost listened. But then he remembered the stories of those who quit too soon. He wrote in his notebook, "A quitter never knows how close he stood to victory. Persistence is the price of admission to success." Reading those lines aloud gave him strength. He decided to silence the inner critic with action. Instead of resting, he doubled his effort. A breakthrough moment months later, as spring arrived, a traveling merchant passed through town. Curious, he stopped by Samuel's workshop. "These are fine pieces," the merchant said, examining the wooden birds and small furniture. "You have skill. Why sell only in the marketplace? Come with me to the city. I can introduce you to people who will pay fair value." Samuel's heart raced. The opportunity had finally arrived. But he realized something important. It wasn't luck. It wasn't accident. It was persistence that had carried him through winter's darkness to spring's opening. Had he quit weeks earlier, the merchant would have found only an abandoned workshop. Lesson of Part 4. Samuel leaned against the doorway of his workshop that night, looking at the horizon with quiet gratitude. He now understood what Napoleon Hill meant when he wrote, "Persistence is to the character of man what carbon is to steel." It was persistence that transformed his weakness into strength, his doubt into belief, his efforts into results. He knew more challenges would come. Bigger tests, greater failures. But now he carried within him an unshakable truth. Every obstacle is a gate. Persistence is the key, and with that key, he promised himself he would never again stop 3 feet away from goal. White heavy checkmark. Core principles in Part 4. Napoleon Hill inspired persistence is the true test of desire. Failure is not the end, but a signal to keep pressing forward. Small daily efforts compound into momentum. The hidden door of opportunity opens only to those who keep knocking. Quitting too soon is the greatest tragedy of all. Would you like me to continue Part 5 with the theme of Faith Plus? Visualization, seeing success before it exists. Another key principle from Napoleon Hill, written again in the same story style. Part 5. The hidden treasure. Within the morning sun slipped through the thin curtains of the small diner, where Michael sat at the corner booth with a notebook and a black coffee. For weeks, he had been rising earlier than usual, trying to capture his ideas before the world's noise distracted him. He had learned one thing: the first hour of the day shaped everything that followed. But today, something felt heavier. He stared at the blank page, feeling the weight of doubt pressing down on his shoulders. His goals seemed too large, his progress too small. Just then, an older man walked into the diner, dressed in a worn brown coat and carrying a satchel that had clearly traveled many miles. The man noticed Michael's notebook and smiled knowingly as he slid into the booth across from him without asking permission. "Young man," the stranger said, "I see you're chasing something important. Tell me, how's the hunt?" Michael chuckled nervously. "I don't know if it's much of a hunt. More like wandering. I've been trying to build my dream, but most days I feel like I'm chasing smoke." The old man nodded, as if he had heard the confession many times before. "That's because most people look outside for the treasure, when the real gold is buried inside." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Inside?" "Yes," the man said firmly. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose. It is not the world that gives you your mission, it is something already planted deep in you. Most men spend their lives searching in the wrong place. They chase jobs, money, applause, but the treasure was always waiting under their own feet. Michael leaned forward. "So how do you find it?" The man reached into his satchel and pulled out a folded piece of paper, yellowed with time. On it were 3 simple questions, handwritten in neat letters. 1. What do you love so much that you would do it for free? 2. What skill do you have that the world desperately needs? 3. What vision keeps returning to your mind, even when you try to ignore it? These 3, the man said, tapping the paper, are the shovel, the map, and the compass. Answer them honestly, and you'll uncover the treasure. Michael sat in silence, staring at the paper. The questions were simple, but they burned in his mind. He realized he had been chasing safe goals, goals that looked good to others. but none of them lit a fire inside him. The stranger continued. When I was your age, I worked in a mill. Hated every hour of it. But one night I read Hill's words, the starting point of all achievement is desire. I asked myself, what is my burning desire? The answer shocked me. It wasn't money. It wasn't comfort. It was teaching. Helping others unlock their own strength. That became my compass. Once I committed, everything changed. Opportunities appeared that I never noticed before. Michael nodded slowly. The man's words pierced him. But here's the warning, the stranger added, his voice lowering. Once you discover your treasure, the world will test you. People will mock it. Fear will try to steal it. Comfort will try to bury it again. You must guard it as if it were gold in your hands. Hill said, a quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Remember that. The diner grew busier as the morning crowd filed in, but Michael hardly noticed. He felt as if he had been handed a key to a locked door inside his mind. Why are you telling me this? Michael asked finally. The old man smiled. Because someone once told me, and it saved my life. Now it's my turn to pass the torch. He slid the folded paper across the table. Answer these questions today. Not tomorrow. Today. Then protect the answers as if your future depends on them, because it does. With that, the man stood, adjusted his satchel, and walked out into the rising sun. Michael sat frozen for a while, staring at the yellow paper. Slowly, he opened his notebook and copied down the 3 questions. His pen shook as he began to write. For the first time in years, the words poured out of him. That night, Michael sat at his desk, staring at the page now filled with answers. He realized his burning desire wasn't the corporate job he thought he needed, or the money he thought would make him respected. It was storytelling, sharing lessons and ideas that could inspire others, just as Napoleon Hill had done. He had been running from it because it felt too risky, too uncertain. But as he looked at his answers, a strange calmness replaced the fear. It was as if he had finally discovered his true direction. He remembered something Hill wrote. When defeat comes, accept it as a signal that your plans are not sound. Rebuild those plans, and set sail once more toward your coveted goal. Michael realized he had been defeated only because he had been building the wrong plans. He wasn't chasing his true desire. Now, he was ready to rebuild. The following morning, he walked past the diner, hoping to see the old man again, but the booth was empty. Still, Michael carried the folded paper in his pocket like a treasure map. He whispered to himself as he stepped into the street. I will guard this vision. I will not quit. My treasure is already within me. And for the first time in a long while, he felt unstoppable. Lessons from Part 5:1. Your true treasure, your definite purpose, is already inside you. Point 2. Ask the 3 questions. What do I love? What skill do I have that others need? What vision keeps returning to me? 3. Once you uncover your purpose, guard it with persistence. The world will test your resolve. Point 4. Remember Hill's truth. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Part 6. The unshakable summit. The town had gathered once more in the old brick hall where Jonathan first told his story. But this time, the air felt different. Stronger. Charged with the kind of energy that comes when people realize they are no longer living small lives, but stepping into something greater. Jonathan stood before them, not as a man who had all the answers, but as one who had walked the road with them. His voice was steady, clear, and warm. My friends, he began. We have spoken of purpose, of vision, of focus, of persistence. We have spoken of faith, of resilience, and of silence. Today, we speak of the summit. Not the summit of a mountain, but the summit of the self. He paused, letting the words settle. You see, life is not about one great victory. It is about climbing, step by step, higher than the day before. And the summit you seek is not out there, it is in here. He pressed his hand gently against his chest. The crowd leaned in, eager to hear the final lesson. The last obstacle. Jonathan told them of the last time he climbed a mountain trail. It was steep, rocky, and cruel. The air was thin, and his body wanted to quit. Every step demanded strength he thought he no longer had. But do you know what I discovered? He said with a smile. The hardest part was not the mountain. It was my mind. The mountain tested my body, but my mind tested my soul. The moment I decided I would not stop, the mountain itself became smaller. He let silence rest for a moment. This, my friends, is the final truth. Every obstacle is smaller than your decision to overcome it. The moment you decide, you are already bigger than the problem. The law of completion. Jonathan continued. Napoleon Hill wrote that persistence, when combined with a burning desire, always leads to success. But I will add this: you must finish what you start. Too many people stop just short of the summit. They dig for gold and quit inches away. They plant seeds and stop watering before the harvest comes. They walk the road but sit down 1 mile before the end. The secret is not just beginning with purpose, but ending with power. When you complete what you start, you build a reputation with yourself. You begin to trust yourself. And that trust is unshakable. A man in the back raised his hand. But Jonathan, what if I've failed many times? What if I've broken promises to myself again and again? Jonathan smiled kindly. Then start again. Failure is not the opposite of completion, it is the training ground for it. Each time you fall, you are closer to becoming the person who will not fall again. Do not curse your failures, thank them, for they prepared your spirit. The discipline of the summit. Jonathan turned to the younger ones in the room, their eyes burning with hunger for life. Do not be deceived, he said. Success is not one big step. It is many small steps, taken every day in discipline. Waking early when your body cries for more sleep. Choosing study when distraction calls your name. Choosing to speak with kindness when anger boils. Choosing to move when fear whispers for you to stay still. These small choices are bricks. One by one, they build the tower of your destiny. Ignore the small choices, and your tower collapses. Honor the small choices, and one day you will stand upon a summit so high that even your enemies will marvel. The hall was silent. Some nodded slowly, others scribbled notes, as if afraid to lose a single word. The inner summit. Jonathan lowered his voice. And yet, there's one more summit, higher than the one the world can see. It is the summit inside. The place where you finally master yourself. The day you are no longer a slave to fear, to doubt, to distraction, to excuses. That is the day you have truly won. No one may clap for you. No newspaper may write your name. But deep inside, you will feel the crown of victory resting on your spirit. You will know you have conquered not the world, but yourself. And that, my friends, is the greatest summit of all. The fire passed on. Jonathan stepped down from the wooden stage. He walked into the crowd, looking into the eyes of the men and women he had once called neighbors. Now, the time has come for me to be silent. The fire is no longer mine, it is yours. You must carry it. You must live it. You must spread it. A woman's voice trembled in the quiet. But Jonathan, what if we forget? What if we grow tired and lose our way again? He placed a hand on her shoulder. Then remember this: greatness is not built in one day, and it is not lost in one day. It is a decision renewed daily. Even if you stumble, you rise. Even if you doubt, you move. Even if you fear, you try. That is the way. The final word. Jonathan returned to the stage one last time. His voice grew firm. Write this truth upon your heart. No force on earth can stop a man or woman with a clear purpose, unshakable faith, and daily discipline. You are not waiting for the world to change. The world is waiting for you to rise. The crowd erupted, not with applause alone, but with the thunder of determination. Some cried, others shouted with joy, others simply sat in silence, their hearts burning with a new fire. Jonathan closed his eyes for a moment. His journey was complete, not because the world crowned him with success, but because he had crowned himself with mastery. And as the people left the hall, carrying his words like a lamp in the night, the town itself felt changed forever. Call to action. And now, dear listener, the fire has been passed to you. Jonathan's story is not a story of one man, it is your story. Your summit is waiting. Your purpose is calling. Your discipline will carry you there. If this journey has stirred something within you, if it has awakened even a spark of faith, courage, or determination, then I ask you, backhand index pointing right, share this story with others who need it. Backhand index pointing right, comment with your greatest takeaway, so your voice may inspire someone else. Backhand index pointing right, and subscribe, so together, we continue climbing higher. One step at a time, the summit is waiting. And so are you. Sparkles. And a final part, Part 6, Sparkles.